Hello everyone. Oh, I'm so happy that we are together once again. I pray that you all are doing well and blessed in the Lord. I have a dream to share with you that I had Sunday morning, which I believe was February the 3rd, 2019, which is still strange to say 2019. Still getting used to it. This dream was about the Antichrist. And I know it was because I don't know if you've ever been around someone and they just gave you the creeps, like they looked at you a little too long, or they smiled a little too long, or they gave you a hug a little too long, and it just made you feel uncomfortable, even though they are not doing anything sinister or maniacal. They're not actually doing anything, but their presence just exudes it emanates, it gives off this vibe of, oh no. And that's the feeling I got in this dream. And even when I woke up, I thought, oh Lord, I started praying. I said, oh Lord, what was that? What was that, Lord? Okay, so I don't want to do a long intro. I want to get right into it. And to be quite honest, I really don't want to add any of my interpretation. I would love to hear what you think of this, and please take it to the Lord and pray over this. And of course, asking for discernment and I have some Bible scripture to go with the dream. But it's one of those dreams where I don't want to say it's obvious, but everything about it screams the Antichrist is he's been ready to be revealed, but maybe it's getting close to when the Lord's going to reveal him, and I don't know that for sure. That's why I said I don't want to add to the message. So let's get to it. Okay, so I saw myself working. I knew I was working in this great, grand, like mansion type home. I remember when I looked up, the walls were like beyond 10 feet or more, and the ceiling was even taller than that. It felt so grand, so big, like the walls would have echoed if I spoke. And I remember I was in charge of the children. I was supposed to watch the children. And I'm not sure exactly their age, but I remember when they stood next to me, I believe there was only two, one for each hand, and when they stood next to me, they were probably about waist high, or because I remember I was able to lean just a little bit forward and hold them close to me with both arms, their shoulders, to keep them close to me. So I was either like a nanny or a teacher or something, but the children were my under my care. But it was important. This was so important because I was actually feeling very protective of the children of the father of the house. I was supposed to protect the children from, this father. And I remember they were frightened. And that's why I said I felt like they were close to me, because they never left my side and I never let them go. The whole dream, I could feel the shoulders of these children in my hands, and I was holding them. And the father, there was something so uneasy and so uncomfortable about this man, even though he looked clean cut, he looked business type. There was just something not right about him. It was his smile. The smile of a man with a secret. A secret that he knew wasn't good for me, but was great for him. It wasn't good for anyone but him. And I never felt this loving fatherly affection for his children. He never came to me, to them, and held them or hugged them. He only would just look at me with this too long of a smile, too long of a look. And it was so off-putting and unsettling, I stopped looking at his face. Then one day, something happened to the father, and I forgot. I stopped looking at his face. His face was full colored, and he looked just business type. Had hair combed to the side, a short haircut, either like light brown or dark blonde. I don't remember. It was fair. His hair was fair. Middle-aged, whatever you want to call that to be. Well, one day, I saw him, and I'm still with the children. Something happened to him. He was injured, and he was on the ground. So I'm holding the children, and we ran to him, and looked down and saw him laying on the ground. And I don't know if he had a head injury, but he had a pool, sorry for the graphics, but pool of blood that was starting to pool around the top of his head. And the floor was white. And I couldn't see, and I have to say this, he had an antichrist spirit. And I know, I don't throw that around. I don't say that in general. I'm being very specific. He had an evilness about his spirit, selfish, insincerity about him, maniacal, sinister. Those are the words I felt about him. And he had such a maniacal feel about him. So when I saw him laying on the ground with a pool of blood, it was horrific. Like, what happened to him? But it was almost, I don't know, but it was very uncomfortable, very unsettling. But I know I always show the Antichrist, sidebar, I know I always show the Antichrist in the blue suit. This is very important. In my dream, when I saw him laying on the ground, I could see his head and his hair in full view, but his body from the neck down, from his collar and tie, all the way to his feet, it was like there was I couldn't see his clothing. And I can tell you this, there's a reason for it, and I'll tell you after, but I wasn't supposed to see what he was wearing. And I'll leave it at that. So the children and I raced to the hospital. He had people. Okay, back to the dream, sorry. He had people, and they gathered around him, and they were like, oh no. He was I guess he was important, and he had people, and they're like, oh no, something bad happened to him, and he's wounded and hurt. And they picked him up, and they took him to the hospital. I'm standing in the doorway with his children, and he's laying in the bed. And he's laying there, and his people are all around him, and they pronounced him dead. And the children were so sad. They felt a loss, because this was supposed to be their father, but they never ran to him. But I remember feeling that they felt sad, and so I consoled them by holding them even tighter. And the people around him, they were in mourning. They were devastated. This man was so important to them. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's dead. They were just, devastated. Well, I took the children away, because this was a lot for children. And so I took them back to the house. And I remembered consoling them, and we talked about it, but I never left them. They were always still by my side. And I remember the people that were with the father, quote unquote, this man, man of the house, whatever you want to call him, they were back with us in the house, just them, and they were just kind of milling around, lost, oh, this guy's gone. Well, then all of a sudden, a statue of him shows up, and it's huge, and it's placed in the hallway. But this hallway was like, no matter where you went in the house, you had to pass this statue of this man, and it was huge. Not like a bust or just a face. It was a whole body, and it was in like the central point of the house. And it was almost like he was still with us. This statue was the worst. It was exactly like him. It was like they painstakingly made it so it was so lifelike of him that the children were very uncomfortable around this, and we would even walk sideways. I remember turning. We were walking past it in the hall because I said anywhere you went in the house, you had to pass this huge monument of this thing. We would turn sideways because it just didn't feel right. I don't know if it was something about the eyes or something about it had the same kind of smile, kind of that sinister, up to something, like I know a secret, it's bad for you, but it's great for me kind of look on his face, like the joke's on you, but just like this photo, the statue was looking down, so it was so huge, when you looked up, it was just face, and it was almost like staring at you, and it was one of those ones where the eyes were closed, but it still felt like it was staring at you with that same strange, off-putting smile. And the children we were all so uncomfortable. Well, something happened. I noticed as we were walking past it at one point, looking down, not the face, but looking down at like the hands or some part of the body, I could see cracks. Cracks started to appear it started looking like plaster or clay. And I'm starting to look at this thing going, why is it starting to crack? What happened? All of a sudden, there's cracks all over it. And we looked, and even the face was cracking. After a while, the whole thing was cracked, like it was shattering. And before long, the whole thing is covered in cracks, and it looks more like a man covered in clay. And you know how the clay, if it's in the sun, it starts to dry, and it's cracked, and it looks like you could just peel it off? That's what it looked like. It looked like just pieces of peeling off clay. Well, all of a sudden, the face changed from looking down at us to looking up. And it was like, wait a minute, it was looking down and now it's looking up. And then all of a sudden, the man who was this off-putting, unsettling being who died, and we saw they went to the hospital and they pronounced him dead. It was like he was encased inside this statue. He appeared out of this statue and stood up. It was awful. It was like he was resurrected out of this stone or clay or whatever, or he was encased in it or something. I don't know, but he came out of the stone, and all the people kind of came and they were celebrating because the guy who they liked, this man who they adored and I don't know, I guess they missed, was back and returned, and they were just rejoicing, and I knew it was wrong, and I held these children. I still never let them go, and I held these children. I was like, I can't believe he's back. What do you mean he's back alive? And he's just smiling, and they picked him up and took him back to the hospital so he could be checked out. And we're back at the hospital, and I have the children, and I remember I had them very close to me again, and we're standing at the hospital door again, and they never really felt like they wanted to run to him and hold him and like, Daddy, like you're back. They were even more frightened than before because he was back. And I remember him sitting on the edge of the hospital bed. And this is very similar to what I remember seeing. But his feet were dangling in front of him, and he was just smiling. And he had this look on his face, a big smile. The doctors are just like marveled, like, what happened? How is he back? I thought he was dead. Like, they were just like scratching their head, like, I can't believe it. And the people, his people, quote unquote, were rejoicing and happy. Yay, he's back. And they're all like celebrating because he's back. And the children and I are standing at the door, almost like scared. That's what I put in my notes. We were scared because he had returned, and he had this look on his face. I'm back. I'm back. This place is mine. I'm back. And that was the end of my dream. So, so that was the end of my dream. So before, when I said I saw him on the floor, and he was laying, and I could see the pool of blood, sorry, graphic, over his head. His eyes were shut, and he looked injured. But from the neck down, I could not see his clothing. It was almost like it was drawn in, like a pencil, but it wasn't filled in, so I couldn't see. But I knew, and that's why I'm showing you the blue suit, I know he had the antichrist spirit. I could feel nothing but evil, darkness. There was nothing good about him at all. Nothing. And I was the protector of those children. I was a children's protector. Whatever you want, a title you want to give it, that's what I was. I was their protector. The reason I couldn't say at the time when I was telling you the dream, I prayed over it all day today. Today's Monday, the February the 4th, I believe. I don't think the Lord showed me his actual suit, because I think the suit would have given away who this person could be. Like, for instance, and I'm just going to throw it out there because so many have gone in this direction, but let's say the Pope. If I would have seen the Pope's robes, I would have said to you, he was wearing something along the lines of maybe what the Pope would be wearing. That would have leaned towards that idea. So that's an example. So I think the Lord omitted his garments because they would have given away who this person is, and the Lord has not revealed him yet. But I believe the dream is to symbolize we're getting close. So I wanted to share this with you, and that's the only thing that I'm going to give you that is my interpretation of the dream. I want to leave it up to you. I want you to take it up to the Lord and pray over this as I've been praying over this, and actually it was really upsetting. These dreams are always a little hard to share, but I know they're important. And I know that I'm supposed to share these dreams with the body, so we know the season we're in, so that our eyes are open, that we're awake and watchful and praying as we're supposed to. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up and let you go. Okay, so I found in Revelation 13:3, King James Version, and I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And I believe this is what I saw in my dream. I think the Lord is pointing to this time. And what I was shown in the dream is that they wouldn't, because they were so enamored with this man, that they didn't see actually that what they were seeing was something biblical, something that God already foretold, and they just marveled at him, at his return. Okay, and at the end, when he was like, I'm back, what the feeling I got was he was excited because it was finally his time. But I wanted to share this from Matthew 4:8-10, King James Version. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things I will give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. So in other words, the devil is going to find himself a very high mountain. But he didn't create these mountains. God did. But he has to still climb to these highest place. And he proclaims, even though he doesn't really have the power to do so, he claims, if you worship me, I will give you the world. I'll give you what you want. But you have to worship me for it. And Jesus comes to him and says, no. You don't have the right to do that, because only God is to be worshipped. He is worthy. God is worthy of worship, not you. So he takes that back from the devil. So that felt like the next step past my dream, and I just wanted to share that with you. Lastly, I think it's a little too long, and I'll just share the Bible verse with you. Daniel 2:19-23, King James Version, is actually a beautiful prayer that Daniel makes. Nebuchadnezzar has a dream, and he calls to all his advisors, and he says, I need the advisors to tell me my dream and to tell me what it means. But no one really could. They couldn't figure out what the dream was to even tell him what it was. And so finally Daniel was called, and he went to him and he said, I cannot tell you your dream because your dream was given to you. And he said, you have to, or you all will be put to death. And he says, but Lord, or not Lord, but he says, but the king, Nebuchadnezzar, like, I can't tell you. And he says, you have to figure it out. And so Daniel left and went to his home and went to the other advisors, and they prayed over it, and Daniel went to sleep. And Daniel was given not only Nebuchadnezzar's dream, but the meaning. And when he woke up, 19-23 is Daniel's prayer, thanking God for this prophetic dream that he was given of the understanding of Nebuchadnezzar's dream and the meaning. And I just thought this was beautiful for all the people who have dreams and visions, or you get something from the Lord, a message, a word, and it's just a beautiful prayer. So I left it on the screen so you can pause it and read it. But it's just a beautiful way that Daniel thanks the Lord for this gift, because not only did it save his life and all the other advisors, but it answered Nebuchadnezzar what he was commanding, and also give him the understanding of the statue, and it was all the different kingdoms. It's very interesting. So I'll leave that up for you, but I just wanted to pass that on to you. Sorry this video got so long, but I just wanted to pass this along to you as well. Okay, let's wrap it up. Thank you. We have an amazing God, and He loves us so much. And like this dream, it's a tough message to share, but it's also, I believe, biblical, that this episode is going to happen where the Antichrist is going to have this deadly wound and be healed. and everyone's going to be enamored with him, and he's going to go into the holy place and proclaim himself to be God in front of the people of God. All these things, the Bible is true, and we need to take the Bible for the words that it says, not to add to it or take away anything from it, because God loves us and he laid it out before us. So all the beautiful things about Jesus saying that he goes, but he's going to build us mansions, and I'm paraphrasing, and he will come back to collect us. And if this weren't true, why would he tell us if this weren't true? And again, I'm paraphrasing. Please forgive me. But all those wonderful things, God's love, just God's love alone, is a wonderful thing. That's also in the Bible. And then also these other things that aren't so wonderful, they're in the Bible too. And so we need to pray over this and understand if this speaks to you, or if this is something that maybe the Lord even spoke to you about. I would love to hear about it. And let's fellowship in comments over this. Okay, I'm going to let you get going. Please take care and know that I love you and God loves you so much more, and that's why he wants us to be on the path. Jesus is the narrow way, the only way, and he loves us, and he will call us into the air. The harpazo, the rapture, the snatching away, whatever you want to call it. But that's also in the Bible, and that will happen. And I pray on that day that we all are found worthy to be called into the air to meet him in the clouds. Please take care, and may God bless and keep you all. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.